everybody. Welcome into the Purple Insider post-game show presented by FanDuel. Matthew Coller here, Dane Mizutani in East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the New York Giants/Jets press box there, following a football game that definitely happened between two teams. And what we will take out of it is one really good throw by Max Brosmer, an injury for JJ McCarthy, and probably not a whole lot else, but certainly the injury that happened to JJ McCarthy to his hand is where we shall begin. Dane, how serious does it feel like JJ McCarthy's injury is?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because right after the game, talking to Kevin O'Connell, he really didn't give that much updates, and I guess that's not totally out of the norm for Kevin O'Connell. You don't normally get like the full injury breakdown other than what the injury was until the Monday after. He did say X-rays were negative, so that's good. It's not a broken hand. I thought seeing that clip that was circulating around on social media of him on the sideline wincing in pain, like to me that looked like a broken hand in my very non-expert opinion. But like to hear that it was not broken, X-rays are negative, good starting baseline. But he also didn't say, yeah, we expect to have him on Christmas Day against the Lions. And of course, quick turnaround adds to the unknowns. Less than 96 hours to kick off now. How quickly is he going to be able to turn over? That's the question. So I guess it's not a catastrophic injury in that it was announced after the game, like to be broken because it's not. Like I said, X-rays are negative, but at the same time, he didn't finish the game. I saw him in the locker room. He had like a little glove on. He was in the locker room talking to his teammates, so that also would indicate good. There was no cast on his hand, would indicate good. But he didn't finish this game, and I think it probably kind of adds or points to a bigger concern, which is like you can't say healthy. Like this is now another time where he's unable to finish a game. So look, it's not good. He was showing improvement. The trajectory was upward. I mean, it kind of feels like you get the rug taken out from under you when you kind of watch him get strip sacked, fumble, score the touchdown the other way, and then walk to the locker room. So, yeah, hard to know exactly if we will see JJ McCarthy at US Bank Stadium on Christmas Day. But I guess the biggest takeaway right now, X-rays are negative. Take with that what you will.
So if he is not able to play in short order, then all we're dealing with here with JJ McCarthy potentially. Now, if it's not that serious, he might be able to come back maybe by the Green Bay game. Like we don't really know right now. Maybe he would try to tough it out against Detroit in just a couple of days. But even then, there's the added element to, oh yeah, this guy just suffered a hand injury. So are we really able to evaluate, even if he does come back, what his throws look like, which are really the biggest question that we're always asking ourselves. So let's talk about what we can take away from this game first from JJ McCarthy, how he played when he did play. And then we'll talk about different scenarios, what they mean, and what might happen because of them. I thought that he started out the game pretty darn well. The interception to Jalen Naylor had nothing to do with him. He makes a totally fine throw. And finally, Dane, of course, this is the sick irony, right? He's throwing to Justin Jefferson. Jefferson's making catches. He's got a sideline one. They're getting him yards after catch, which everybody has begged for so long. And then he throws a pick six, but it's negated because Abdul Carter lined up ever so slightly offside. And that was a typical JJ McCarthy miss where the ball is once again high and fast. And I know that there's been a lot of dropped passes, including the one by Jordan Addison, which was maybe a great play or maybe not by JJ McCarthy as he's getting pressured. He just sort of throws it up, but it finds his target. We expect Addison to catch that. That should have been a touchdown. That comes off the board. Then he's got this interception that comes off the board. It's like, and then the scramble in for a touchdown is excellent, but I don't know that I could use any of this to move the needle in any direction. I think we could have against Dallas, maybe a little bit against Washington. Dallas is really the big one, but for 14 throws, one strip sack, one throw that should have been picked that wasn't, one pick that shouldn't have been. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do to use this game as a bigger piece of the evaluation puzzle of JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, which is why the injury is so damaging, because I think we would have had a pretty clear depiction. Was this a good game or was this a bad game? Had he been able to finish the entire game? Like the New York Giants looked like they didn't want to play football today. They looked like they didn't.
Oh, we lost Dane. Okay, well, we're going to try our best to get Dane Mizutani back there from New York. Oh, I see him. I see him there, but he kind of froze. Let me get Dane back in the mix. But the point being, oh, do we have Dane back? Okay, Dane, we got you back.
I think so.
Yeah,
Sorry,
okay.
we're on the Giants Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
So
go
I
ahead.
think if you lose me again, you lose me again. We'll audible. We're professionals. So like I think what the bigger point though is that like you don't know if it was a good game or if it was a bad game because he didn't finish the game. Like if I think we would have had an indication one way or the other. But you're right. Like the throw to Jordan Addison, I thought it was a good throw, staring down the pressure of Dexter Lawrence and just kind of layering it up there. It's probably a hope ball, but it lands exactly where it needs to be. Jordan Addison absolutely has to catch that. So you could argue he like should have had a touchdown added to his stat line with 25 yards, and then taking the interception off of his stat line with the one bobbling off of Jalen Naylor's chest. And then if you everything was the same, I understand like he got extremely fortunate that Abdul Carter was 6 inches offside. But if everything was the same outside of those two drops, the stat line looks very, very good. And we could probably point to this game and say there were some good throws. He got Justin Jefferson involved. He showed his ability to kind of create outside of the pocket. I still am begging for him to take better care of himself in the open field. I don't know if you need to hurdle your way into the end zone and risk getting your head hit. But that is kind of how he plays, and he's proven that his legs are a weapon. But I do agree with you in the sense that this felt more like a roller coaster up until halftime than Dallas last week, where he was just good, or Washington, where he was just good, albeit against a JV team that didn't look like they really wanted to be there. I don't think it's as definitive. Like he was awesome today, but I think we might have got that if he was able to play the entire game. One thing I will note, talking to Kevin O'Connell after the game, and this is an issue with JJ McCarthy too, and I get it. It's two pronged. You want a guy that's tough. You want a guy that's willing to play through the injuries, play through the pain. But on that screenplay that is dialed up, Kevin O'Connell seemed to insinuate that like JJ McCarthy did not get hurt on that play. It was not like
Mm.
he injured his hand while getting strip sacked by Brian Burns. It sounds like JJ McCarthy got hurt earlier in the game, maybe even before he rushed for that touchdown, and then didn't report any discomfort. And like I get it, your adrenaline's pumping. He probably didn't know like that his hand was as hurt as it was. But that strip sack, the ball has to come out quickly. It's a screen pass to Justin Jefferson. It doesn't. My initial reaction in real time was, why didn't he throw that? Kevin O'Connell hinted at, and we asked for clarification, and he didn't definitively say it, but that JJ McCarthy couldn't grip the ball. Like that's why he didn't throw it. So, like, is it his fault for not reporting the injury, the discomfort, and then that directly leading to a catastrophic play? I would argue yes. Like I appreciate your ability and want to fight for your teammates, stay out there. But if you can't grip the ball and throw it, then you can't be playing quarterback in that very moment in time. So like his kind of passion and wanting to just be out on the field also contributed to arguably the biggest play of the game. So big picture, I still do think it was a good game for JJ McCarthy that showed signs of growth and what you kind of want to see. But if this is the last game he plays this season, I don't know that it will be, but now we only have 2 games left. I don't know how much information we've gathered or how much we can just put into a good game against the Commanders that didn't look like they wanted to be out there, a good game against Dallas, who has one of the worst defenses I've ever seen, and a good ish half against the Giants, who, again, certainly didn't look like they wanted to be out there. So it's part of this conversation that's ongoing with JJ McCarthy, and I think that's why it's so frustrating to evaluate him. Is that like if he could just stay on the field, we would have way more information. We would know way more about kind of where this thing is headed. And I think there's going to be a little bit of guesswork involved, whether he plays the final two games or not.
Yeah, and that play where he gets strip sacked, I saw some debate online of, well, did Brian O'Neill miss a block or something
No.
like that? And Brian O'Neill, I saw, explained to you guys after the game, like, no, we blocked that up exactly how it's supposed to be blocked. The ball is just supposed to come out immediately because it is a screen. So, yes, you can leave someone unblocked because the ball is supposed to be gone. But that explanation actually makes more sense than when I'm watching it and going, like, why didn't he throw it? Like, why does the ball stick in his hands there? But that makes sense. And it's actually a repeat of exactly what happened against Atlanta, which was he hurt the ankle, he got it taped up, he didn't go into the blue tent or have it evaluated or anything, and then
Mhm.
went back and then missed some throws and made some mistakes down the stretch of that game that maybe at that time it would have been Carson Wentz could have come in and given them a chance to win that football game. And instead, he decided to stay in the game. If he did that again here, that is pushing it probably too far to be like, hey, I'm going to be tough and I'm going to try to fight through this. But I'm sure in the moment when the adrenaline's going, maybe you're not sure, like, how bad is it really? Can I keep making throws? Can I keep making plays? But the problem is what we get to next, which is what you started to talk about there, which is if this is it for JJ McCarthy's season because he can't get his hand back to close enough to throw any more footballs, or if by some scenario the Green Bay Packers are already set in the playoffs and then they decide, hey, we're not going to play any starters, we have gotten so little information about JJ McCarthy in this entire season. I mean, when we think about how long he has been a Minnesota Viking. This was their 32nd game since drafting JJ McCarthy, and he has now played in 9, and it might get to 34. Well, I guess it would have been 35 games because they were in a playoff game last year. So it could be 35 games, and he plays 9 for the entire 2-year stretch because of these injuries. And when we look at them, Dane, this is the hard part because when people say, oh, he's injury prone, things like that, it's like my least favorite phrase in all of sports is injury prone because you sort of are until you're not, right? Like Joe Burrow was, and then last year he wasn't, and then this year he is. And you're like, I don't know, like this happens to all sorts of players. And if you're young, I mean, how can we call someone injury prone when they're this young? You have a hand injury that now I guess we're not sure where it happened, a concussion where we're pretty sure where it happened, him running into somebody. We have an ankle injury that is kind of bad luck. Somebody falls on it. We have a meniscus that may have been a problem in college, but he fought through it. And then, as something, snapped there in a preseason game is pretty random. But that's 4 injuries over such a short period of time. And now even the idea of hurting your hand bad enough to leave a game and then coming back and playing on Thursday seems like a pretty big stretch, even if we don't know, because we're not internet doctors who watch the TV and then try to guess how hurt everyone is. There are those people out there if you want to find them, but that's not us. So let's just say in the scenario that JJ McCarthy does not play in these next 2 games because of this hand injury. And we'll get to the rest of the game and other stuff to take away from it, other injuries that happened. But this to me is the biggest discussion. What do we do here, Dane? What do you do with these 9 football games where he played pretty well in some of them, he played pretty bad in some of them, and then he played okay in several of them? I mean, what do you do with that?
I mean, I feel like you have to bring in some sort of competition. We talked about this a month and a half ago. Like what JJ McCarthy had the ability to do was dictate the type of competition the Vikings bring in. They're not going to just roll forward with Max Brosmer as the backup next year. I would be stunned because you need more of a known commodity behind a relatively unknown commodity that JJ McCarthy is. Now, I think I've seen enough over the past I don't know if I've even seen enough over the past 3 weeks, but I think I've seen enough upside in a vacuum coupled with the idea of not wanting to trade significant draft capital to like go out and say like we need to go trade for, Mac Jones was the trendy name for a while there. I don't know if I want to trade a second round pick for whatever it's going to cost for Mac Jones when I've seen glimpses of what JJ McCarthy can be. But I don't know if you can just roll forward saying he's the guy. Like I think that would be a pretty foolish process at this point, especially like we won't call him injury prone, but knowing that he's been injured a number of times so far, and he seems to get injured on pretty innocuous plays. Like this one might have happened just on an incomplete pass. We don't know. Like they don't know exactly when the injury occurred, but like the point is, it wasn't this huge hit or this weird non-contact injury. It's just he plays football and he ends up getting hurt because of the way he plays football. I think there's an argument. I'm going off on a tangent very quickly, but like you could argue the way he kind of failed to protect himself on the scramble that will be replayed, and it was a great play by him on third down, gotta have it situation, and he gets into the end zone, he dives across. Like it's a good play in a vacuum, but it's not how I want my quarterback to play. I don't want my quarterback diving headfirst into the goal line in the middle of the second quarter because you can get injured that way. So like the way he plays football lends itself to some of these injuries that he's suffered. No, but I think the Vikings, they have to bring in someone. Like I don't know what that name is. I don't know who it is, and I'm sure there it happens in the NFL. Like there are names that become available that you didn't know were available even in week 15, 16, 17, 18. So maybe by March we'll have a better depiction on these are the guys that are available. And I'm sure once the season ends in 2 weeks, we'll talk ad nauseum about all these options that they have. I need them to bring in somebody though. Like I think that is regardless of if he comes back and he's awesome on say he plays on Christmas Day and he's awesome. And say he plays on in week 18 and he's awesome and he knocks the Packers out of the playoffs. They still need to bring in somebody because I just don't think one, the sample size is big enough. And two, I don't think he's proven himself yet to be a reliable enough player in terms of availability that they can just bank on him as QB1. So, like, I think Jacoby Brissett's under contract, so I don't think he's a good one to pick. But like somebody like that might make sense, just like a veteran who can do it. Maybe like a veteran that can do it that you would hope JJ McCarthy could beat out in training camp. But my takeaway from all of this season and just the limited sample size we have is like there is going to be some level of competition for JJ McCarthy, even more so if he can't play against the Lions and the Packers.
So now his updated stat line for his 9 games is 6.6 yards per attempt, 11 touchdowns, 12 picks, 27 sacks in 9 games, and a 71.2 quarterback rating with 174 yards rushing and 4 rushing touchdowns, which count the same as passing touchdowns. So, they, to me, I like to mash those two together and come up with total touchdowns. So 15 total touchdowns, 11 picks, 71 quarterback rating over 9 games. And that number of games has a real mix mash of different levels of opponents, starting out with Chicago, which has turned out to be a halfway decent defense, but not really a great defense. That's for sure. Atlanta is absolutely nothing special at the end of the season. And I'm not sure that they were at the beginning of the season either. And then you have Green Bay. It's a great defense. It absolutely pummels him. Then he comes back against bad defenses and looks like an NFL quarterback. And I thought the accumulation of these 3 games, including today, were NFL caliber quarterback play. Now, today, though, had those little sprinkles of being erratic. And that includes if we just decide that we don't really know what happened on that throw until he talks about it, then it includes him not throwing a football on a screen and getting just completely decked. And he's been ragdolled way too many times on even positive plays, but then on sacks as well. He was sacked a couple times hard, one in the red zone earlier in this game. And we've seen an improvement in accuracy, but I would not say that today was a super accurate game for JJ McCarthy. And you can't wash out of your brain that he overthrew Jefferson wide open over the middle and it bounces off his hands and gets intercepted and take it back the other way. I mean, that matters to the evaluation if we're counting like where is the consistency of JJ McCarthy throwing the ball, where last week against Dallas, I thought overall it was quite excellent, and with, a couple of exceptions. And then now you have today that's okay. There's a couple of really good throws in there. There's a couple of bad plays in there. And what are you supposed to make of that? To me, that's just a zero. It didn't move the needle one way or the other. I don't know how, as you mentioned, even if he does play, that you could just say, oh, you're set. But the worst part to me about injuries in the NFL is that you cannot make progress when you are injured. And so if he does not play on Thursday, it's once again no progress. Didn't play against Seattle, no progress. Didn't play for 5 weeks, no progress. And then all the time, we're just resetting the timeline over and over and over with JJ McCarthy. And there's all these things that still have to be improved upon. And even 3 games wasn't near enough at the end of the year. But at least if he can play them, or you were thinking play them relatively healthy, that you'd be able to say, all right, I think I've got a decent idea, because you've got the better teams. Detroit can still play, and they're going to face a banged up offensive line for the Vikings. If Green Bay's playing for a playoff spot there, I mean, they're going to come in, flying 110 miles an hour against the Vikings. And those would be 2 pretty darn good tests. Today was like, coming into this, I thought to myself, just let him get through it. And I said this, I think, on Friday, like, let's sim to next Thursday. Let's just get past this one, turn injuries off, and then, carry on with the 2 games that are going to give us the best evaluation or the best final impression of JJ McCarthy. And now if he can't play in either one of these 2, even if it's 1 out of 2, it still cuts in half the amount of throws. He had 14 throws today. How many did he have against Dallas? Like 20 something. How many did he have against Washington? 20 something. I mean, the total, I just had this, the total passes. You're telling me we're supposed to take 220 attempts and say, oh yeah, like in a season, there's guys who throw 600, and we're supposed to say, oh yeah, you know what you have. But here's my opinion, Dane. Well, you're right. There needs to be a backup quarterback who could win games, because there might be, just the way he plays, several sections of next season where you need somebody to come in and win a couple of games for you. I'm still not looking, for me, at other quarterbacks to be the starter unless behind the scenes, Kevin O'Connell feels like, I just can't do this. I just cannot work with this. Because I saw still this week, Dane, I wrote a little bit about this, Jeff Howe of The Athletic is putting the Vikings in the Kyler Murray conversation. He's putting the Vikings in the Daniel Jones conversation. All the insiders did not change their opinion over the last 2 weeks. They've still been reporting, oh yeah, well, the Vikings could be in on Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Kyler Murray. I haven't seen Tua because that wouldn't make any sense, but like they're still throwing that out there. And if they decide, that's where it would really come down to. If the season ended today for JJ McCarthy, for me, it would come down to, well, how does Kevin O'Connell feel about how much progress he can make in the offseason and into next season? How coachable did he feel like he was? How scared of these injuries do they feel like they are? Like, this is now much less of a, was he good this year, or did he show flashes this year? And now it's a bunch of other layers to the conversation that go beyond just, hey, did you like enough that you saw of him throwing the football?
Yeah, and I think like that is probably where I land too. Like I think they do need to bring in somebody, whether we want to consider that person competition or insurance. Like it is, I guess, more semantics, but they're going to bring in somebody this offseason. But I think I tend to get, and I thought your take on this was very good. Like, this is your bed, lie in it. Like that this is JJ McCarthy. Like, play out the string. If he's great next year, great. If he's good next year and shows improvement, good. If he stinks next year, move on. But like we don't have enough information certainly right now to move on from him. And I just don't think any of those other quarterbacks, like I know Joe Burrow's the name. Like if Joe Burrow's out there, like yeah, I think he should be a Vikings quarterback. if they can make that happen. But I don't know if Kyler Murray or Daniel Jones or certainly Tua like gets you any closer to the Super Bowl than JJ McCarthy does next year. So like then I would probably rather just play JJ McCarthy with the understanding that it could go poorly. Like so, I don't think we have enough information to be able to sit here and like honestly analyze what he's put on tape and say like it's gonna go well next year. Like they're gonna like if they run it back with him, like he's bound to improve. Like I think you could have felt stronger about that going back to what we were talking about if you turn the Commanders game into a good Cowboys game, and if you turn the Cowboys game into a good Giants game, and if you could have just got through this Giants game and then turned it into a good Lions game, then Packers game, I think a 5 week swing of like pretty damn good play would then give you at least some confidence. Again, I don't think it would have given you all the confidence in the world to say it's going to look great next year, but certainly more than you have now. And Kevin O'Connell seemed to even hint at that after the game when asked about just like how frustrating it can be for like the growth of a quarterback to kind of have these setbacks. And like I believe that Kevin O'Connell saw the growth that had happened over these last 3 weeks and probably said like kind of similar to what we're saying, like now let's see this growth continue against better teams. Like we ran through the NFC East the way, 3 game winning streak that can't be, I guess, just undersold just because they're out of the playoffs. They've won 3 games in a row. And I think there was a point in time where I didn't think they would win another game. And I think if you were able to kind of stack those 3 performances on top of each other and then play well against the Lions and the Packers, I think Kevin O'Connell would have felt better than he feels now if JJ McCarthy can't play again. So I think it's frustrating for everybody involved that he can't stay on the field. But yes, it does just hinder progression and growth when you can't stay on the field because it does reset the clock. Maybe not all the way back to zero, but you're not able to just continue to move forward and move forward and move forward. Like there was the cliche that Kevin O'Connell kept using throughout the past few weeks was, I just wanted to see him stack positive plays on top of each other. And that was talking about in a game. Like he wants to see a 6 yard completion, then a 5 yard completion, then a 12 yard completion, and see like how the thing turns out in the end. But I think on top of stacking positive plays on top of each other, you want to see him stack positive performances on top of each other. And we were seeing that. And now maybe we're not. Now maybe it's just over. And it just kind of makes me think of all the other times throughout his 2 years here so far where it was like, okay, he's showing some improvement. Oh, okay, never mind. He's on the shelf again. And then he'd come back and he'd be like, okay, well, it's starting to look better. Oh, never mind. He got hurt again. Even going back to week 2, like week 1 was good. Week 2 was awful. Week 3 could have been better, but then he got hurt. Like it's just like the whole thing. It just feels like 2 steps forward, 4 steps back, 3 steps forward, 6 steps back. Like we just don't have a clear enough depiction of what this guy is, and we won't. Like even if he plays the final 2 games here, missing this half of football, like I think matters. Like you didn't have a chance to continue the ascension. And honestly, like the way that things have kind of turned over the course of this season, like we'll see if he plays on Christmas Day. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we walk in there and into TCO and it's told that he probably is not going to be ready to play on Christmas Day. It's just such a quick turn, even when you're healthy, let alone when you're dealing with a right hand injury. This is not the Justin Herbert get surgery on your left hand and then be a hero by wrapping it up. Like, it's his right hand. If it's hurt, he can't throw. So the whole thing is just, I was just sitting here in East Rutherford today, kind of shaking my head, what are we even doing? Like the whole game after he went out felt extremely meaningless, and it already felt a bit meaningless in the grand scheme of there's so many more questions that are probably need to be answered this offseason. But it felt like we were getting some answers, at least about JJ McCarthy, and then we weren't. So I mean, it's just kind of par for the course with how it's been so far.
In the best possible scenario, maybe he's ready for Christmas and then gets to play the Packers with something to play for. And maybe it was just a really painful bruise that will go down and heal. I mean, this seems unlikely since you couldn't play a half, but you never know. Maybe that's possible. But if he tries to play through an injury on Christmas Day on his throwing hand, and then he throws a couple of interceptions, flies a couple balls over people, then what do we do with that either? Or even if it's just like meh, like let's say it's, 12 for 21 and they try to run a lot and what, kind of looks like what Brosmer was doing when he came in and they end up losing the game and he goes 12 for 21 with 128 yards. I mean, are we supposed to be like, oh, okay, no, because he was dealing with a hand injury, but also we have to evaluate the results anyway. And then it feels like today, the evaluation, unless it just magically heals and it's fine and it just, I don't know, struck a nerve in the hand. Is there a nerve you could strike that would feel like that? I don't know. If it magically heals altogether, it is Christmas time, a time for miracles. Maybe that happens and he's able to come back and play, and then we can move on with this. And it doesn't feel like it's such a sledgehammer to the face of everything that we were kind of looking forward to over these last 3 weeks. Like what Washington did was it cracked the door open ever so slightly for, oh, okay, maybe something clicked a little bit with O'Connell and JJ getting on the same page. And then he plays a legitimately very good game against the Dallas Cowboys, where he is the reason they won the football game. And you're going, that's something we've been looking for all season, or really since the day he was drafted, is win games because of your quarterback. And he does it. And then today, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, 14 passes. Who knows what you're even supposed to do with that? They're still running the ball a lot. They get it to Jefferson a little bit. Okay, it's a good throw here. It's a good throw there. And now we are just shutting the door on all that progress and saying goodnight to the season. I mean, that to me would leave me so up in the air on JJ McCarthy, but certainly not in a place where I was sold or convinced or anyone in the organization could say, oh yeah, we're all set. We got our guy. We're good to go. Because if you look around that National Football Conference North, oh my gracious, what Caleb Williams did the other night coming back against the Packers. The Packers are not going anywhere for next year. The Lions are not going anywhere for next year. This has to be evaluated, Dane, on a different curve. And that's why it was so great to have the Lions and then the Packers, and both of them might be desperate. And it was like at home, big time TV game on Christmas. Snoop Dogg's going to be there. Some form of K-pop that I don't understand is going to be there. And you're like, here we go. And if that's taken away, it'll feel very much like, hey, everything that's happened in the 2025 season is, do you want some candy? Do you want something fun? Oh, I'd love some. No, I'm going to throw it in the trash. Like that's been all season long, has just been, you want some good football that might be fun and interesting? Oh yeah, I like that. No, you cannot have it. Get away. Now we're starting Max Brosmer on Christmas. So if that happens, I feel like what a gut punch. But I agree with you on it needs to be someone else. The question will be with the pressure that everyone is going to feel. And I want to talk about what this game means for Kevin O'Connell in a moment. The pressure that everyone will feel to win next year, to be leading the playoff race at this time of next year. If you only have 9 games, 4 injuries, and a 71 quarterback rating, it's not exactly inspiring to try to save your job based on that guy and the way that he's played and how often he's been hurt.
Yeah, I mean, and there is legitimate pressure that will exist next year with everybody involved in this organization because they haven't gotten. I mean, the goal is Super Bowl. They haven't gotten anywhere close to that, but they haven't won a playoff game since this current regime, as currently constructed, has been there. So while fans will say, like, well, it would be knee jerk to do anything but just keep rolling forward, and while you and me might agree that the best path forward for the franchise in the franchise as a whole would be to just find out for sure, and then if he's bad, probably set yourself up to pick the next guy. That probably isn't going to cut it for Kevin O'Connell, and that's why I think there will be some level of like I said, whether we call it competition, whether we call it insurance, of a guy brought in, because you can't hitch your wagon to somebody that you don't necessarily feel convicted in or don't know everything you feel like you need to know about. So again, I don't want to belabor it, but we talked about it. Like it, if these last two games are not JJ McCarthy starting, like you're just not going to get any more information. And that's going to be something that I think is going to sit with you throughout the offseason, or at least the early portion of the offseason, until you determine which other person will be in here with him next year. So that is where we're at right now because of what happened at East Rutherford right behind me.
What I have always said about figuring out teams and like what they really think is to watch what they do and sort of listen to what they say. I mean, sometimes what they say will point you in the right direction, but watching what they do will always point you in the right direction. And if they start being connected to, all right, hey, they're going after Daniel Jones, you wouldn't go after Daniel Jones unless you believed that you needed a starting quarterback. You wouldn't trade for Mac Jones unless you needed a starting quarterback. Like, you're not doing these things. I mean, Kyler Murray, we think of that because he's been a top 15 quarterback before in his career. But I would even say that of these other guys, Daniel Jones will not come back to Minnesota unless he is told you're the guy. Or the same thing goes for Mac Jones. Like, they're not going to give up a draft asset unless you are bringing in a starting quarterback. If they get some, routine backup like we've been talking about, or Carson Wentz returns, then you know that despite all the gestures and everything that's happened this year, that they are in on McCarthy. But what's really going to determine it now that if we don't have these last two looks, is just how much they believe in what they've saw projecting forward. If we get these last two looks and he plays extremely well, and that's the last impression against these teams, I think both you and I would say, wow, I mean, fought through another injury to come back and play like that and beat the Lions or beat the Packers and in a big game that the Packers were trying and et cetera, then wow, right? But man, now we don't even know if Jordan Love's going to play week 18 with his concussion. Malik Willis got hurt as well. What a league it is. But let's talk about Max Brosmer in this game. He comes in and certainly doesn't have to do a whole heck of a lot. The Giants' urgency was lacking, I think, when it came to trying to stop the Vikings on that final drive. But Brosmer was moving him a little bit, gets to 3rd and 17, drops back, and unleashes an absolute freaking dime to Justin Jefferson along the sideline. He makes a terrific diving catch, 22 yards to convert. And that's basically the game. The game is won right there because, and I don't want to talk Giants post game. They got their own problems, but like, do they hate Jackson Dart? They wouldn't even let him pass today. Like they just wanted nothing to do with Jackson Dart. I don't know what is going on over there, unless Mike Kafka has been told that he gets to stick around or something, or gets a nice letter of recommendation from the organization if he tanks these last couple games. Because I have no idea why you wouldn't be throwing any passes with your future quarterback, but maybe they don't think he is. I don't know. But what did you make of just how Brosmer, who got made fun of so much after that Seattle game, was able to come in and lead a game-winning drive?
Yeah, I mean, look at his stat line: 7 of 9, 52 yards. He took a sack. I think it was on his first, might have been on his first drop back of the second half. He takes a sack, but it it looked like what I thought it was going to look like in the first start of his career, and it also then off of that shows kind of the levels of this in the NFL. Like Max Rosemark can look like a good backup quarterback against a pretty bad team. And he can look like a guy who's never done it before against one of the elite defenses in the league. So I thought it was impressive just that he was able to kind of take what happened in Seattle and then just in a way just keep working and find a way to, when his number was called today, not be overwhelmed by how spectacularly bad it went in his NFL debut. And somebody asked Justin Jefferson about that very specific thing after the game, like how was he able to bounce back from such a bad debut 3 weeks ago? And Justin Jefferson basically said, "Well, it was the Seahawks, and he's a rookie, so like it was bound to look better, and it did today." And I thought like there were probably people when they see JJ McCarthy leave, go to the locker room early at halftime, watching at home, thinking, "Oh my God, Max Brosmer's going to do something silly, and the Vikings are going to lose this game." He didn't. He played professional played like a professional. I mean, they relied on the run a heck of a lot, but when they had to have a perfect pass late in the game, I mean, he delivered what I would argue is one of the best throws we've seen from any Vikings quarterback all season. Just a layered ball over the top. Justin Jefferson obviously makes a spectacular throw, but even he, after the game, asked about that play, said that's the perfect ball. He said, I caught it. It was a good catch, but that's a perfect ball, and that's what it was. So I think what will we take away from this game for Max Brosmer is that maybe it's not over after it looked like it might have been in Seattle. There's clearly something in there for him to maybe level up to be, a competent backup in this league. You also probably just feel good for him that like there are times in the NFL where like say JJ McCarthy doesn't get hurt today. Say JJ McCarthy plays out the rest of the season and doesn't get hurt. And then say the Vikings bring in a veteran backup next year. Like Max Brosmer may never play again. In this scenario, instead, he's able to kind of right the ship. Kind of, they had a lead going into halftime, but he puts together a game-winning drive there at the end, and um, I guess like a drive that proved to be the difference. I don't know if it was under the pressure of like we need, but like he did everything they needed to do, and coupled in with the fact that he threw a really good ball. I think you can take a little bit away from this, thinking that maybe down the road he's somebody that we can look at as a backup quarterback. But if he doesn't make that throw to Justin Jefferson, I don't know if they win that game. So I think, and Kevin O'Connell said that much after the game. He said there are a lot of plays that we're going to point to, but that play contributed to winning football as much as any play in the game, and I would agree with that. Overall, I was more impressed than I thought I would be when I saw him start taking snaps under center coming out of the locker room at halftime. I thought there was a chance that it could go bad because that's all that was in my head. And he bounced back and he did the job. He did the job of backup quarterback and helped them win the game.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a game managery type of 9 throws where most of them were short, and he's handing off to Aaron Jones a lot, and Aaron Jones is hobbling his way to first downs and slamming through at the end against the Giants defense that, is one of the worst in the NFL against running. So they were able to do that. But I agree with you with Max Brosmer. You never know. I mean, he could play on the Friday or Thursday, but he may not. And then we don't know if he's going to get to play again ever in his NFL career. So to have that, a game-winning drive, although in the Pro Football Reference wins and losses, JJ McCarthy gets the win for this game, which you're like, okay, I mean, I guess he got them ahead earlier, but it just sort of, that's a funny little quirk that you could finish the game with the game-winning drive, but you don't get the W in the box score. But I agree with you overall that like those are the types of things, and we would get asked about McCarthy or about Brosmer. What is it that you nerds saw in training camp? We're like, oh, it was that. It wasn't Seattle's defense ripping his head off and beating him to death with it because they're one of the best defenses in the NFL. This was more along the speed of a game that a backup quarterback could come in, execute, look like he's in control. They weren't like scrambling or jumping off sides or whatever. He was in command enough, and good for Max Brosmer to get the win there. Ryan Kelly, I feel sad. I feel very sad. Like you and I, as reporters, we've seen a lot of injuries, a lot of, players who come and go and things like that. And, we become pretty jaded about all that stuff and sort of like, well, there's another one and on to the next player. My soul is hurting for Ryan Kelly because he came back. I was really worried about him coming back because you just get to a point with these head injuries where like no more. You have to draw a line in the sand. Like this is too many. And then it was, well, we'll put the guardian cap on him where I'm not a scientist, but I don't know if that just completely puts you in a bubble in the NFL where guys are hitting you really hard, and it happens again with him. And I think that his NFL career has to be over after this. 3 concussions in a single season. He's had many before, many diagnosed. I'm sure there are others that are not. And not to flip back to callous on this, but this now leaves a really big question about what they're going to do into the future at the center position, which I think we were already asking. But if Ryan Kelly finished extremely strong and it played great and looked like he was back to health, I think we'd be saying, like, yeah, get another option, do a little better there, or Brandel maybe take some snaps during the summer at center. But like, hey, look how freaking good this guy is. You know, he's great. So bring him back, him and McCarthy, go forward, whatever. And now you're in a position where you got to be looking to the draft to use a potentially high pick on a center. Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens is a free agent, but man, when you look at that list of free agent centers, I mean, you might have to teach Blake Brandel to do it like full time for 17 games because I just don't know what any other option is. But that was just horrible. Can you speak to that as well as other injuries that they came out of this game with?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with Ryan Kelly. It just sucks. Like he I think against a lot of, at least it's not, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. Like our opinions, decided to come back and took every precaution that you can take. Like if you decide to come back and play this violent game, got outfitted for a new helmet with the highest safety rating that you could possibly have, wore the Guardian cap, even though like a lot of guys just don't do that because they think it looks silly. Like he did everything he needed to do to try to make sure that this didn't happen again. And then you go watch that playback, like it's just pretty innocuous play. It's like a dive up the middle. And I think that goes back to like what we talk about with concussions and like the add up effect of them sometimes. And especially with linemen who are just car crash every time the ball is snapped. But to see him just laid out on the ground and to see Kevin O'Connell walk off the sideline and like we knew, like I think we had a pretty good idea what was going on when he didn't get up. Um, but I think there was still like at least you could hold out some hope. Like maybe he just like tweaked the knee or something. Like that sounds weird, but like maybe it was just like a knee injury. Maybe it was like a sprained ankle. But then when the announcement comes that he's being evaluated for concussion, like I think everyone as impartial and unbiased as we try to be, like I think if you've talked to him, and he's a great guy, he's a spectacular football player. Everyone's heart just kind of sank in that moment because you know like if he plays again, that is his choice, but he should not play again. Like this is too much. This is six documented. This is 3 in 1 season, and you got to think about life after football at a certain point. But yeah, it was awful to see, and you could tell it affected Kevin O'Connell after the game. Just kind of asked about it. He said like he's been playing great for us since he's come back. He's been one of the best players on our offense since he's come back. But then he said like, but I don't care about like how he was playing. I just care about like is he going to be okay? And like we're all thinking about Ryan Kelly. So everybody should be thinking about Ryan Kelly. Like that sucked, and it was not a good thing to kind of have to kind of walk in and ask about afterwards. With everything that's kind of happened so far, so that was awful. I'm sure we'll talk about just the kind of the ripple effects that can have on later shows. But he obviously did not come back in the game. Jordan Mason got hurt and was ruled out very quickly. Did not come back into the game. Got carted off. He looked pretty sad based on just body language. I don't know how serious it is, but it was a quick trip to the medical tent. It was a carted back to the locker room, and it was a quick ruling out. So will we see him again this season? I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I'm sure we'll find out more tomorrow. Aaron Jones got dinged up and was limping like crazy after the game, and we said like, "Are you like how are you playing?" And he was like, "Well, I just felt bad like if I had to leave Xavier Scott in there as like the only running back, so I just decided to like get taped up and play." And that I mean that speaks to kind of who Aaron Jones is. Like I think in a normal situation, if Jordan Mason was available, like Aaron Jones is probably out for the game with an ankle injury. He plays through that. And he got praise from pretty much everyone in the locker room after the game. So other than that, injury wise, like I don't know, like my mind is really just with the injury to McCarthy, the injury to Ryan Kelly, and then obviously there were some other injuries here and there. But that's kind of where the Vikings stand here heading into this short week.
Yeah, all I could say more about the Ryan Kelly thing from Kevin O'Connell's perspective is it's very hard from, if you're the head coach and a grown man who's been in this league for this long tells you, I want to play, I want to get out there, you can't keep me off the field. And he's this good. He's been a top 5 PFF graded center. Like, he's the guy we all talked about for so long. Hey, if they just had this guy, and it's made an enormous difference. I think that it's not a coincidence how well JJ McCarthy has played with a veteran center in there helping him direct things. But at the same time, I mean, the franchise, the organization, O'Connell, they had to know that they were putting a guy out there in a serious position of risk in games that are not for the playoffs. And I don't know. I don't have the right. I just need to say that, but I don't have the right, like, moral. What is it supposed to be there? What's the decision supposed to be when a grown man tells you I'm going to go do it? But I think that after this, the league has to take the keys away and just that, like, no more. This can't be for Ryan Kelly, and it's been an unbelievable career, but you can't risk anything further from that. Speaking of Kevin O'Connell, now I don't know unless you have something to say about the defense. I just thought, like, the Giants
They're right.
are a joke, and this defense is good, and, like, congrats to everybody on a great game, but also, like, what the hell, Giants? I mean, throw the ball. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, so, but yeah, look, they got their reps in running the football. Once Andrew Thomas went out, you knew it was pretty much over. Like, if they don't have their left tackle, I don't care who is, if Grenard is out, but, like, they're not going to be able to run their offense, and they're already super bad anyway. So, like, another great game for the defense. We've known this for a long time. They're good at football. There you have it. And Byron Murphy gets a break, which he hasn't got all year. The ball hits their tight end right in the hands and right to Byron Murphy. And it's like, where was that at all the other weeks? What happened last year. But I think the last storyline here for me is, and I'll give you, we've done this every week. We've looked at FanDuel odds for them to get to 6, 7, 8, 9 wins, whatever. The FanDuel odds for the Vikings to win 8 games is now plus 110. So it's almost even for them to get to 8 wins. I think if they're not playing JJ McCarthy, I would drop that by quite a bit. I think if Aaron Jones gets home and those ankles swell up like crazy, it's going to be real hard for him. I guess they trade for Cam Akers again or what? I know they can't trade, but somehow Cam Akers ends up back here. They're now looking at, who knows if Hargrave plays, Darrisaw's out, Kelly's out. If Mason's out, like, you're playing with half a team against 2 desperate NFC North behemoths, that seems like a pretty tall order. But I think, Dane, that getting to 7 was very, very important for Kevin O'Connell, because when they were 4-8, we're sitting here going, if they lose the rest of the games, this is nightmare territory for O'Connell. And then we start talking about coaching searches maybe, or we start talking about extreme hot seats for the future. And I think getting to this point is where there's a difference between 6, 5, 6, and 7. And maybe it's just that all life is perception, but a 7-win season is, you can go back and go, man, there was that one kickoff. There was that one drive they didn't get against Pittsburgh. There was that one, whatever it might have been, away from a decent season, and then you had to play your backup quarterback for 5 games, or it might end up being 7 games, and then it's like a redux of 2023. It feels the same. I didn't feel like O'Connell deserved to be on any sort of hot seat after 2023. After 7 wins, I still feel the same way. The team fought much harder than their opponents these last 3 weeks, which is what we expect from a Kevin O'Connell team. I think it matters a lot to get to this point, to at least have a chance to play 2 more games for potentially finishing with a winning record. If they were able to get to 9-8, that would be an accomplishment for them, even though it's like, hey, raise a banner. It's not what they were looking for, but it is an accomplishment if they were able to turn around the end of this season.
Yeah, and I think the number of wins, it's not insignificant to me, but like 7, whether it's 7, whether it was 8, whether it was 6, like, heading into this stretch, you played 2 awful teams. Like the Commanders and the Giants are awful. And then you played the Cowboys, who had something to play for and were fighting for their playoff lives, and you knocked them down. I think what the Vikings showed in this stretch and what Kevin O'Connell showed by being the leader of the team during this stretch is that they are not an awful team. Like, I thought there was a time during this season where I would sit in the press box and say, like, are they the worst team in the league? But like, they're not. Like, there are levels to this in the NFL. And I think what the Vikings proved is that, like, yes, they had a season that they will regret, a season that feels like they left a lot of meat on the bone, but they do not belong in that category at the bottom of like the jokes in the NFL. And there are just joke franchises in the NFL. We see it every year. It's always are generally the same teams. But there are teams that down the stretch you're like, this team this shouldn't even be a football team. This team should be relegated. This team shouldn't even be in the NFL. And I think there was an opportunity for the Vikings to be viewed, at least nationally, like as one of those teams, and they're not, and they won't be because of. I'm not one for moral victories. Like, they didn't make the playoffs, they have no chance at the Super Bowl. Like, that is what it is. But I like, they do deserve some credit here, and like Kevin O'Connell deserves some credit here, and not letting this thing spiral out of control. Like, I think the culture thing can sometimes be overplayed. I think sometimes it becomes like a buzzword. I think sometimes it just becomes something we latch onto because it's an easy story when things get tough. And it's like, let's see the culture being tested. But like, I think what we'll probably learn when the dust settles in mid January is that, like, that was probably a real thing that helped them through a pretty crappy time, like where it just felt like nothing was going right. So yeah, I feel like 7 wins, like, that matters. Not because of the number, not because of 7 and 10 necessarily to me, but like because you didn't let it spiral out of control. You didn't stoop to the level of the Washington Commanders or the New York Giants and let them beat you. Like, you beat them, and not only did you beat, I mean, look, the game today was terrible, 16-13. It's not like the Vikings dominated the Giants, but they were the better team today too. I think what they proved is that, just like, there is still a forward direction. There's still like a compass, and he knows what he's doing. I didn't ever think hot seat was a thing, but I understand like the people who jumped to those conclusions. It's certainly not a thing anymore, regardless of what happens in the final 2 games. And to just kind of close the loop, like, I think the Vikings are going to lose the next 2 games, but I thought they were going to lose the games, with or without JJ McCarthy under center. I didn't care about the results of the final 2 games. I just cared if we got to see JJ McCarthy play and how he was going to look. And now, if we're all together on Christmas Day at US Bank Stadium, as much as I appreciate my former Gopher Max Brosmer, or my fellow Gopher Max Brosmer, if we're not watching JJ McCarthy, like, it does just feel like the wind has been let out of the sails. Because, to your point, what Washington did, it opened that door. That performance that he had against the Commanders opened that door to at least care about what he looks like. So whether they win or lose, whether they finish 7 and 10 or 8 and 9 or 9 and 8, like, none of it matters. You don't get to see JJ McCarthy under center.
The only other side of that discussion, and I have to say it because I'm me, and because the Chicago Bears are where they are after tanking, is the Minnesota Vikings have once again played themselves out of a good draft pick. Congratulations. If they put up banners for every time the Minnesota Vikings played themselves out of a good draft pick, going back to like Andrew Luck, where they won a senseless game in Washington, and they then drafted, I think, Matt Khalil instead. You'd have no room left in US Bank Stadium up in the rafters if you raised a banner every time you played yourself out of good draft position. And I can't help myself, because someone will be picked in the top 10 and the Vikings will be picking 17th or 16th or something, and will be like, oh, you know who would have been great? That guy. And my understanding is early returns on this draft are like not super deep and really not that great at the very top. So, they're moving themselves farther and farther away. But if they had lost these games to teams that are just crashing and burning, firing people, playing Josh Johnson yesterday, the defense for Dallas is a complete mess. And, then today, if they had lost these games, then you've lost your team because you're so much better. And I picked this one to be 24-7. And I think like they outplayed them to the point where it would have been had they not given up a strip sack for a touchdown. One real quick note before I let you go, Dane, because every game has its implications on next offseason, and we are on to 2026 in our minds. Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, Jonathan Jones, who works for CBS, noted something that the Star Tribune has reported, which is that Brian Flores is in the final year of his contract. These last, I want to say, I mean, I don't know, they were a good defense against Green Bay. I don't even know. Like the whole second half of the season, they've just been fantastic. Nothing short of it. Great game against Dallas. Another great game today. Van Ginkel, once they got healthy, they've been pretty much untouchable. And so he reported that, and Ed Werder, who covers the Cowboys and has forever, said the Cowboys certainly took notice of Brian Flores. He is a free agent. And I think if Brian Flores doesn't love the direction of the offensive side of the football, that he might be willing to listen to other teams that are a Brian Flores away, but have the offense from competing like the Dallas Cowboys. What is your sense after just another great defensive performance, like where things stand with him, because he did not last offseason decide to sign a multi-year contract to stay here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where his head is at in terms of does he want to stay? Does he want to see if the grass is greener on the other side? What I will say is that one, I think he should be head coach. I mean that's another discussion for another time. Like he probably won't be because of the lawsuit. He probably is not going to be somebody that they consider handing the keys to a franchise to. But like if it were just off of merit, like that man deserves another chance to be a head coach. I digress there. We'll talk more about that later when I'm sure he'll get some interviews. I'm sure he'll go through some processes. He deserves to be treated like the best high school quarterback out there, where like everybody's recruiting you and like everybody wants a piece of it because he's that good. Like I think he could go anywhere he wanted as a defensive coordinator position open. If Dallas is willing to pony up the money and they have a lot of it, like then yeah, like maybe he could decide to go elsewhere. I think if he leaves, it is a big gut punch for the Vikings because the defense has buoyed this team for prolonged stretches this season, but not just this season. Like for prolonged stretches since Brian Flores got to Minnesota. So I don't think it's an accident that he didn't sign a long extension last year. It does leave him options this year or this coming off season. I don't know what he's going to do. But if the Vikings lose him, they have a massive, massive, massive hole to fill outside of just the roster itself. Like we talk about the roster. What are they going to do? Are they going to bring in quarterback competition? What are they going to do at center? Like, do they need another, an explosive running back? Like, do they need another person on the outside to help as a pass catcher? Do they like all of those questions are going to exist? But if Brian Flores leaves, there's going to be a massive question on the coaching staff as well, too. So it's obviously something to follow, and something we will follow very closely this offseason, when I'm sure we'll talk a lot.
I certainly wondered after he waxed very poetic about Harrison Smith the other day. We will see. Mr. Miztani, thank you so much for your time there from East Rutherford, where you traveled all the way there to watch that football game. And I have when it comes to Vikings games, my brain is pretty photographic when it comes to old games. You know this, like this happens all the time. It comes up, oh, remember that route in that game and whatever else. I don't think so with this one. I don't know that I'll like what other than JJ getting hurt. Like what happened in that game? Like I don't know. There was that one play, the kicker, the new kicker for the Giants congratulations to him. His first ever kicks. Will Reichert, of course, coming through as he always does, no matter the circumstances. And that was that. So, Dane, thank you so much for your time. Thanks, everybody, for dropping by to listen and talk about this. Tomorrow, we will have the roundtable. As always, we will get an update from Kevin O'Connell on where JJ McCarthy stands and the rest from a health perspective. And we will have a very quick lead up to the Christmas Day football game against the Detroit Lions, which, I've joked earlier about how callous we could be, and we have done this for so long and seen everything that we don't hope for things. It just happens, and then we talk about it. Let's all hope for the ice bath for that hand to get JJ to the point where, America has a game to watch between starting quarterbacks. So thanks again, Dane, and we'll talk to all of you soon. Football